Okay, it's on to the next beer. I've had two non-alcoholic beers. I'm on to the third one now. Obviously, I don't feel any of the effects at all, other than the assault of hops from the Brewdog Punk AF. But we're moving on now to one closer to home. It's Wicklow Wolf in Ireland. It's their Moonlight non-alcoholic hoppy ale from Wicklow Wolf Brewing Company. Okay, so we've got out the old Killarney glass here, which I picked up earlier on in the year from holiday down in Kerry. But on the opposite side of the country, down in Wicklow, County Wicklow on the east coast, is a really great brewery, which I absolutely love, Wicklow Wolf. Now, they've produced this beer, Moonlight, and I think I'm right in saying I've had their low alcohol beer, and it was a coffee beer. I'm not sure if this is the same thing or something totally different. But anyway, let's talk about this beer. Let's sort of give it a lash and see what it's like. It's the 0.5%, so it falls in the non-alcoholic as opposed to low alcohol. It says on the front of the can that it has 46 calories there. Have a quick look at it. My hand is shaking a little bit because I'm so cold outside. Yeah, 46 calories per can, which they proudly present on the front of it. I think that's great to have such a low calorie count. So if you're drinking this from the perspective of cutting down your calories, this is a great option. A lot of non-alcoholic beers that I've picked up, and I picked up about 14 or 15 now, just in the last couple of days for these videos, and a lot of them are in and around the 120 to 150 calorie mark. Well, not a lot of them, but the few that I've had a look at so far, and that to me just seems like you know, you'd expect non-alcoholic beers to be lower in calorie content, and so this is more what I'm looking for, 46 calories. So if I'm really trying to work on dropping a few pounds or just cutting back on the alcohol, and you know, I want something that's not going to put anything on my waistline at the same time, then maybe something along this lines is what you're looking for. And so they're right to put that on the front of the can. It says in pale blue, non-alcoholic hoppy ale. That's to help everyone at the bar, and that's to help the people, consumers looking for the beer on the shelf, to just identify it a bit quicker. They've got a grey can, and then you can see the blue striped non-alcoholic there. It's just to identify it a bit quicker, and I think that's a great idea. The writing's written vertically, so I'm just looking at it on the side here. It has wheat in it, barley, lactose. Lactose is going to give this a fuller body. It's 0.5%. I'm not sure the process that they've done. Have they de-alcoholized this beer, or have they made a beer that is so low in alcohol content and then they've propped it up with lactose? I don't think you can do that with a 0.5%. I think you have to de-alcoholize it some way. So stripping back of the alcohol. I wonder what it says on here. Unfiltered, unpasteurized, unfiltered. Okay, that's interesting. If it's unfiltered, then how do they get the alcohol out? Natural beer, keep cold, serve at 8 degrees. Trying to see. Yeah, I'm not reading all that fluff. Moonlight non-alcoholic hoppy ale is brewed without compromise using specialty malts and juicy hops. Crafted to make it high in flavour but low in alcohol. Okay, so it feels like this is a beer, well, I don't know, I can't say for sure the exact process they've used to brew this beer. Expect juicy citrus aromas with a clean, fruity finish. That's the fluff. Let's get into it. Let's check this out. These dinky little cans are kind of cool, because if you're drinking non-alcoholic beer, the last thing you want is a whole big fat pint of it. You know, if you're keeping up with pints around a table, you're the driver and you're driving home, you know, 330ml seems pretty much bang on the number, you know, like the old Beck's beer, non-alcoholic beers, you know, all those bottles. Same for the cans, 330ml. Before I even picked this beer up, I got a whiff of that lactose. It's unmistakable. It's sweet, it's creamy, and it's vanilla. So that's the first thing. That was before I even picked it up. So I know there's a decent amount of lactose in the beer. Let's have a look and swill up this beer and see if we can get a head going. A lot of these beers I found to be gassy. I've no idea. Maybe it's just something to do with the process that they're made with, and then maybe you get more gas from it because it doesn't have the alcohol in it. I don't understand that, but that's just what my perception of these beers. It's another light golden coloured, slightly hazy. They did say unfiltered. All the beers I've had so far have been, or they are perceived, in my opinion, looking up at them, to be crystal clear. Therefore, I'm thinking they're all filtered, and this one is not because it says so on the can. I get that, you know, it's a face full of lactose. Lactose isn't bad at all in certain situations, but this gives me a creamy vanilla aroma. I think I've had one of their low alcohol beers that was coffee, and this does not have coffee in it in any description. It doesn't say anything about that. It does have wheat in it. Wheat's going to give it extra protein content. There's calories in wheat that you get from the protein content as opposed to the carbohydrate, which is the sugars, starches, and the fibers. There's going to be a small fat content in here, calorific fat content from the lactose. Yeah, there's a bit of a fruity, hoppy note to it, but we'll just leave it at that and say that I definitely get a good bit of vanilla on the nose. Okay, so this is going to fall into the category of one of those beers where I notice there's no alcohol in it, because it lacks a component that alcohol gives in alcoholic beers, which is that warmth. You taste alcohol. You're not really sure what it is when it's in the low percentages, but you certainly get it in like a barrel-aged imperial stout. You get a real strong bang of alcoholic warmth in your mouth. To a lesser degree, in a 2, 3, 4% beer, you know, you're going to get it much, much less. So in the 4% sort of standard strength beers, we get a bit of alcohol, but we're not really perceiving it as warmth. It's just part of the package of the ingredients. Whereas this, I can straight away on the first sip notice that I don't get that alcohol. So what I'm seeing from other non-alcoholic beers is they're propping it up by adding loads of hops to it, or adding loads of malt to it, or adding a different element to the beer to steer your mind away from the fact that it's non-alcoholic, so which is a good idea. And in this beer, I guess what they're trying to do is with the lactose. It does have a bitterness to it, but the bitterness drops off pretty quickly. Like almost immediately, as soon as you drink it, the bitterness that is there. I want a few more sips because I've just had that Brewdog Punk AF, and that was really grapefruity. So I'm going to give this a few more goes. There's enough lactose in this beer that it almost comes off a little bit smoky, which is unusual. Yeah, I feel like this beer has too much lactose in it. It sort of arrives at the front of the beer, and therefore you're drinking a lactose beer rather than beer that has a bit of lactose in it, if you understand what I mean. It feels like I actually feel like this beer is like smoky, and it's not burnt, but it feels like there's some sort of smoky element to this beer. I'm not sure if I like that or not, but it feels out of place a little bit. And what I think it is, I just think it's the lactose. There's a lot of it. The beer is thin. Let's say that. If I had one of these beers and then I could move on to a Brewdog Punk AF, and then I could move on to an Erdinger alcohol-free or a Weinstefano alcohol-free, I kind of like it because it's totally different. But if I had to sit down and drink this all evening at a table of beer drinkers, I would have one of these. I don't think I could have a second one. It'd be a bit too much. It's just not on the flavour spectrum that I personally would enjoy. I think a lot of people would find it difficult to have several of these. Again, like all of these beers have been a bit gassy as well, which is really bizarre. I just don't understand that. Yeah, it's really odd. There's something about this beer that I'm not sure if I like. It's almost woody and almost smoky. It's got to be the lactose, is all I can say. Like, maybe the lactose is slightly... I don't know how they produce this beer in terms of the method, but it feels to me that there's like a really deep sort of vanilla woodiness, maybe bordering on smoky, maybe a bit burnt element to this beer. I can't really put my finger on it. It's very strange flavour to perceive in beer, but it could just be that there's so much lactose in here that I'm perceiving that lactose the way it is without beer to fill it out, the flavours. It does say light, it says hoppy, doesn't it? I'm not really digging this beer, if I'm totally honest with you. I love Wicklow Wolf. I absolutely love their beers. They are so good. But this one, I think they made another light alcohol beer as well. This one, it's just not doing it for me. If I had to, I'd drink one, but I would be I'd be searching behind the bar to see if there was an alternative option. You know, and for Wicklow Wolf, what they really want is, you know, if you're in a bar and you're drinking non-alcoholic beer, they want you to drink 3 or 4 of these. Well, I wouldn't want to drink more than one of these because there's a strange flavour in it. And I think that Wicklow Wolf would benefit from perhaps approaching this from, you know, fire hops into it, or fire a bit of interesting unfermentable malt into it, as opposed to the lactose route. Maybe just a touch of lactose. That's my view on this brew. It's not the worst. It's absolutely drinkable, but I'm just not particularly enjoying it myself. That's my view on this brew. Cheers, Slancher, and it's on to the next one. Bye.